Zanelli was so excited. She had planned a surprise honeymoon at a beautiful luxury hotel in Accra. Everything was perfect. That morning, she stepped out quickly to buy Thulani's favourite local pastries, thinking it would make their morning even more special. But when she came back, her heart broke. She saw Thulani in the infinity pool, laughing, touching, and whispering to another woman. He looked so happy, so comfortable, like Zanelli didn't even exist. But the thing that hit her the hardest, that woman was wearing the exact same swimsuit Zanelli had lovingly bought for Thulani, the one he said wasn't his type, the one he had refused to wear. And now here he was, arms around someone else, in that swimsuit, acting like he had never made those memories with Zanelli. For a moment, she couldn't move. She just stood there, watching her husband become a stranger. The water sparkled, the sun was shining, but everything inside her went dark. It wasn't just betrayal, it was mockery. And in that moment, something inside her shifted. She didn't cry, she didn't shout. She pulled out her phone and pressed record. Zanelli didn't scream, she didn't cry. Not even a single word came out of her mouth. Her hands were steady, her face calm, but her heart was breaking inside. She simply reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and started recording. Her hands didn't shake, her voice didn't rise. She just held the camera up and captured everything. Every smile, every touch, every whisper that wasn't meant for her. The other woman noticed her first. She froze, her face turning pale in an instant, like she had just seen a ghost. She tried to move away, but it was too late. Zanelli had already seen it all. And then Thulani turned. He was still smiling until he saw Zanelli standing there, phone in hand, silent, watching. His smile vanished as quickly as it came. Panic filled his face. He jumped out of the pool, water splashing everywhere. He called her name over and over, his voice shaky, trying to explain, trying to lie his way out of the truth. But Zanelli said nothing. She didn't need to. She kept recording until she had every second, every detail. Then she turned around and walked away, calm and silent, as if she hadn't just watched her whole marriage fall apart. People stared. Hotel staff whispered. But Zanelli didn't care. That video wasn't for the internet. It wasn't for drama. It was for her, for proof, for truth, for evidence. She went straight to her hotel room, locked the door, and sat down. She played the video back, once, twice, 3 times. Not to hurt herself, but to make sure she had what she needed. She backed it up to the cloud. She saved it to a hard drive. And then she took a deep breath. There were no tears, just silence, just pain that sat in her chest like a heavy stone. Thulani knocked on the door later. He begged. He cried. He said it was a mistake, said it meant nothing, said she was just a friend. He tried everything, but Zanelli didn't open the door. She didn't answer. She didn't give him the chance to lie again. He had shown her who he really was, and she had captured it all on camera. That night, she booked her own flight back home, alone. She left a note at the front desk, telling them to give Thulani the room key, but she didn't say goodbye. She didn't leave a message. She let the silence speak for her. In her heart, Zanelli was done. She knew that no apology could erase what she saw. No excuse could fix the betrayal. She didn't need to scream to be heard. She didn't need to fight to win. All she needed was the truth. And now, she had it, in crystal clear video. Not for revenge, not to ruin him, but to protect herself, to defend her story, to take back her power. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing a woman can do is walk away, without a single word. What Thulani didn't know was that Zanelli wasn't just any woman. She wasn't just his wife. She was powerful in ways he never imagined. Quiet, graceful, always composed. But behind that calm smile was a woman with real influence. The luxury hotel where he had betrayed her? Zanelli held majority shares in that very chain. She didn't just book a room there. She had access to the top. She knew the staff, the management, the board. While Thulani was trying to impress people in suits with his tech ideas, hoping for a meeting, hoping for a deal, Zanelli had already sat in those boardrooms. They already knew her. She was part of the reason the hotel existed in the first place. When she walked away from the pool that day, she wasn't just walking away from a cheating husband. She was walking towards a plan, calm, calculated, and clean. She didn't post the video herself. No, that would have been too obvious. But somehow, just a few days later, the video leaked online. No one knew where it came from. It started on a small account, then moved fast, first on TikTok, then Instagram, then Twitter. The caption was simple: "When your wife catches you cheating, in the pool she paid for." That was all it took. In just hours, the internet exploded. People recognized Thulani from tech events, podcasts, and social panels. He had built his image as a smart, driven, trustworthy entrepreneur, a family man. The video tore that image apart in seconds. He was no longer a rising star. He was a meme, a headline, a joke. Pool Boy got played, started trending. Influencers reacted to the video. Bloggers dug into his past. Brand managers went silent. One by one, his sponsorships dropped him. Emails stopped coming. His calendar went empty. The investor who had promised to back his new project, gone. He said he couldn't risk putting money into someone with a reputation like that. Not after the video, not after the comments. In under a week, Thulani's world collapsed. And Zanele? She said nothing. She never posted a word. She simply went back to work, calm and elegant, like nothing had happened. Her phone rang all day, with interview requests, podcast invites, and brand offers. Not because she asked, but because the world saw something powerful in her silence. People were fascinated. How could she be so calm, so smart, so strong? Women across the continent began quoting her. Her quiet walk away from the pool became iconic. The video wasn't just drama, it became a moment, a lesson, proof that a woman doesn't have to fight loud to win big. Thulani tried to fight back. He posted a long video trying to explain himself, saying things were taken out of context, blaming haters, saying it was all just a misunderstanding. But it was too late. The internet had already made up its mind, and the video didn't lie. It showed everything: the smile, the whispers, the woman in that swimsuit. No amount of talking could undo what the world had seen. Zanele didn't need to expose him. He did it himself, and she simply let the truth rise to the surface. And the best part? The same hotel chain he was hoping to pitch his big tech idea to, the one he thought would change his life, was no longer interested. Not only because of the scandal, but because Zanele was quietly in the room where those decisions were made. She didn't say, "Don't work with him." She didn't have to. They saw the video, they read the headlines, and they knew exactly who she was. They knew that if he could lie so easily to a woman like her, a partner, a wife, a shareholder, then he could never be trusted in business either. Zanele never laughed. She never gloated. That wasn't her style. But deep down, she knew the truth had done exactly what it needed to do, and she had moved on, quietly, powerfully, without shouting, without chasing revenge. She had simply stepped back and let the truth do the work. And Thulani? He went from building an empire to watching it fall, all because he underestimated the one person who believed in him the most, all because he thought he could lie to someone who already knew how to play the game better than him. And now the world knew it too. The next morning, Zanele didn't cry. She didn't even flinch. She sat at the breakfast table in a different hotel, sipping her tea slowly, calm as ever. Her phone buzzed once, a message from her lawyer. Everything was ready. She smiled softly to herself, closed her phone, and stood up. It was time. Thulani had no idea what was coming. He had spent the night trying to call her, texting long paragraphs filled with fake apologies, lies, and excuses. He had begged her to meet, to talk, to fix it. But Zanele had already moved beyond that. She wasn't interested in fixing anything. She was ready to end it, clean, strong, and smart. By the time Thulani saw her again, it wasn't at a cafe or a quiet meeting spot. It was at the front door of the house they once shared. He opened it, confused, still holding on to hope. But standing next to Zanele was a man in a suit, her lawyer, holding a thick envelope. Inside, divorce papers and a court order. Thulani's face dropped. He looked at her in shock, but she didn't blink. No anger, no yelling, just steady eyes and silence. The video footage from the pool wasn't just a viral moment anymore. It had become legal evidence. Zanelle's lawyers moved fast. They used the recording to show emotional abuse, public embarrassment, and betrayal of trust. Every second of that clip was clear, with sound, faces, and even timestamps. There was no way for Thulani to deny anything. The judge reviewed it carefully and didn't need much time to make a decision. What he saw wasn't just cheating, it was cruelty, the kind that destroys confidence, love, and peace. In court, Thulani tried to speak. He tried to explain, to twist the story, to make himself the victim. But the video was louder than his words. It showed the truth, and the judge saw right through him. Zanelle didn't even have to say much. Her silence said it all. The pain in her eyes, the strength in her calm, and the evidence in her hands were more powerful than any speech. She wasn't asking for sympathy. She was asking for justice, and she got it. The judge ruled in her favor on every point. She was granted full rights to their marital home. That house, the one they built together, where she cooked, decorated, and made memories, was now hers alone. Thulani was given a deadline to move out. No drama, no arguments, just court orders. But it didn't stop there. The court also froze their shared bank accounts to protect her financial interests. Zanelle had been smart all along. She had kept every receipt, every text, every moment where Thulani had claimed money for business expenses that turned out to be lies, trips, dinners, gifts, all in the name of work. And now the truth was laid bare. The money he once used to cheat her could no longer be touched. And the car, the shiny, expensive car Thulani always bragged about, the one he said was for business meetings, that car was now legally Zanelle's. She had proof it was bought with shared funds, registered in both their names. The court didn't hesitate. She kept it. It wasn't about revenge. It was about fairness. That car had driven him to lies. Now it would drive her into a new chapter. Thulani stood in court that day, stunned and silent. The confident man who once laughed in a pool with another woman was now small and shaken. The room was full of truth, and none of it was on his side. The world he tried to control had crumbled, and the woman he thought would stay quiet had become a storm, calm, clear, and unstoppable. Zanelle left the courtroom with her head high. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. She had walked through fire and come out gold. The papers were signed. The orders were final. And her future was now her own. No more lies, no more pretending, no more waiting for someone to treat her right. That night, she went home to her house, parked her car, and slept in peace. For the first time in a long time, there was no weight on her chest. No questions, no confusion, just freedom. Thulani, he spent that night in a small hotel room, alone, scrolling through articles about himself, reading comments that once praised him and now mocked him. His phone buzzed constantly, but it wasn't work. It was people sending the video, again and again. Isn't this you? Wow, she handled it like a boss. You really messed up. And Zanelle, she didn't care. She had no time for bitterness. She had plans, dreams, peace. Her silence had spoken louder than anything else, in court, online, and in her heart. And now she was free to live the life she truly deserved. The internet didn't just react, it exploded. Within hours of the video surfacing, people everywhere started sharing, commenting, and stitching their own takes. But instead of making her a victim, the world crowned Zanelle a queen. Memes flooded social media, but none were mocking her. They were cheering her on. Pool Boy Got Played became the #1 trending hashtag for days, shared by influencers, celebrities, and everyday women who saw strength in Zanelle's silence. People weren't just watching the video, they were inspired by it. There was something powerful about how she handled the betrayal, not with chaos or shouting, but with calm, quiet grace. Zanelle didn't try to explain herself. She didn't need to. Her story had already been told, and the world had listened. But she did something even more powerful. She turned her pain into purpose. A few weeks after everything, she launched a podcast. The name was simple and strong, Unbothered. Her first episode, a heartfelt talk about emotional intelligence, betrayal, and healing. Her voice was soft but steady. She spoke like someone who had cried in silence and now stood tall. Women across the continent, and even around the world, tuned in. They didn't just listen, they connected. In just 1 week, her podcast hit the top charts. Within a month, she had over 1 million followers across platforms. But more than the numbers, it was her message that caught fire. She didn't preach. She didn't play the victim. She simply shared what it felt like to be betrayed by someone you trusted, and how to rise without losing your mind or your heart. She told listeners, sometimes the deepest betrayal needs no words, just video. That line hit hard. It was quoted everywhere, on t-shirts, on phone cases, on murals. Women posted it in captions, in stories, in comments under their own heartbreaks. It became a modern proverb, and Zanele became its author. She didn't stop there. She started working with mental health professionals and relationship coaches to create safe online spaces where people, especially women, could talk about their experiences. She invited guests on her podcast, therapists, writers, artists, and even other women who had experienced betrayal and chose healing over revenge. Each episode was like a quiet, powerful conversation that helped people feel seen. She spoke not just from pain, but from wisdom. People loved her because she didn't hide her scars. She showed how she grew from them. Brands began reaching out, not just for her influence, but for what she stood for. She partnered with wellness companies, women's empowerment events, and digital platforms focused on mental health. Her face appeared on magazine covers, not as the woman who was cheated on, but as the woman who built a whole empire from her heartbreak. Zanele didn't chase clout. She built community, and the world responded. Women from Nairobi to Lagos to Johannesburg were sending her messages daily, some sharing their own stories, some thanking her for giving them the strength to leave toxic relationships, some simply saying, "Thank you for showing us how to move on with dignity." She didn't always reply to every message, but she read as many as she could, and in those quiet moments, she smiled, because she knew that while she couldn't change what Thulani did, she had changed something bigger, how women saw themselves after being betrayed. She continued to grow. Interviews came in, talk shows invited her, universities asked her to speak to young women about emotional intelligence, business, and quiet strength. And every time she took the mic, she reminded people that power doesn't always look like shouting. Sometimes it looks like walking away with your head high and your truth in your hands. And Thulani, he was still a trending name, but not for the reasons he had hoped. His face became a symbol of public embarrassment. People used his story as a warning. Don't be a Thulani. He tried to rebrand himself, to move on. But the internet never forgets, especially not when the truth was caught in 4K with crystal clear sound, in a hotel owned by the woman you wronged. Zanele didn't waste a second thinking about him anymore. Her days were full. Her heart was healing. She had turned the page, and now she was writing her own story, on her own terms, not as the woman left behind, but as the woman who rose from it all and helped thousands do the same. And still, every now and then, someone would post the line that started it all. Sometimes, the deepest betrayal needs no words, just video, and under it, always, would be one name, Zanele. Months later, Zanele stood tall on a brightly lit stage at a women's leadership summit, held in the same luxury hotel where everything had once fallen apart. The audience clapped loudly as she stepped up, confident and glowing in a soft, elegant dress. Behind her, just through the glass, was the infinity pool, the exact one where she had once seen her world crash in silence. She glanced at it for a moment, then turned back to the crowd with a gentle smile. Her voice was calm, but powerful. "Water doesn't lie," she said. "It reflects who you are." The room went quiet, touched by her strength, her grace, and her growth. That moment was more than just a speech. It was a full-circle victory. Across town, in a tiny, crumbling apartment with peeling paint and a broken fan, Thulani sat on a worn-out couch. He held a borrowed phone in his hands, watching a clip of Zanelli's speech as it trended online. Her words echoed in the small room, bouncing off the walls like a final truth he couldn't escape. He looked around. No job, no business, no deals, no friends, just silence and regret. He had once laughed in that pool, thinking he was in control. Now, Zanelli stood above it, and above him, as a symbol of power, wisdom, and unstoppable growth.